Mississippi did not abolish slavery until 2013. And the only reason it happened is because a professor went to go see a movie. Yes, this is not a joke. This is a fact. And the deeper you go into the history of this state, the darker it gets. And what I'm about to walk you through is something that most Americans have never been told. And every single thing I'm about to say is historically documented. So let's start at the beginning. In 1865, the 13th Amendment was ratified, abolishing slavery across the United States, and 27 of the 36 states at the time voted in favor of it. Mississippi was not one of them. Mississippi rejected the 13th Amendment, and the reason? Well, their lawmakers were upset that they had not been compensated for the value of the freed slaves. Think about it. They wanted to get paid for the value of what human beings were worth. So let that sit for a second. The rest of the country was moving to end one of the greatest atrocities in human history. And Mississippi's response was, we're not signing unless you pay us for the people we can no longer own. That should tell you everything you need to know about where this story is headed. After rejecting the amendment in 1865, Mississippi did nothing about it for 130 years. While the rest of the country was moving forward, Mississippi was going backwards and ratified the 13th Amendment. See, it wasn't until 1995 that the Mississippi State Legislature finally voted to ratify it. The vote was unanimous, but here's the thing. After the vote, the Secretary of State never filed the paperwork with the federal government. So technically, it was never official. Abolishing slavery was apparently not important enough to make sure the paperwork got filed. For 130 years, nobody acted on it. And when they finally did, nobody followed through. So you tell me if that sounds like an accident. So how did it finally get resolved? In 2012, a professor at the University of Mississippi Medical Center named Dr. Ranjan Batra went to see the Steven Spielberg film Lincoln. The movie tells the story of how the 13th Amendment was passed. After watching it, Dr. Batra got curious and started researching what happened after the amendment was ratified. That's when he discovered that Mississippi had never officially completed the process. He told a colleague named Ken Sullivan. Sullivan contacted the Mississippi Secretary of State, who agreed to file the paperwork. On February 7, 2013, the federal government confirmed that Mississippi had officially ratified the 13th Amendment. Shout out to Steven Spielberg, by the way. 148 years after slavery was supposed to be abolished because a professor watched a movie and got curious. Now, to understand why none of this is an accident, you need to know what happened during Reconstruction. After the Civil War, Black Mississippians were given the right to vote for the very first time, and they showed up. By the late 1860s, nearly 97% of eligible Black men in Mississippi had registered to vote, and they used that power. Mississippi elected 13 Black state senators and 102 Black state representatives. They had a Black lieutenant governor, Alex K. Davis, 2 Black secretaries of state, James D. Lynch and James Hill, a Black superintendent of education, Thomas Cardozo, and in 1870, Mississippi sent the first Black man in American history to the United States Senate. His name was Hiram Revels. Black Mississippians weren't just participating in government, they were building it. They created the state's first public school system. They passed civil rights legislation. They were transforming the state. And that terrified the white power structure. Now, what happens next is one of the most deliberate acts of political suppression in American history. See, white Democrats in Mississippi used violence, intimidation, and murder to take back control. They stuffed ballot boxes. They committed perjury at polling sites. They used armed militias to terrorize Black voters. A Mississippi judge in 1890 even admitted it openly. He said they had been preserving the ascendancy of the white people by revolutionary methods. A Mississippi judge in 1890 even admitted it openly. He said that they had been preserving the ascendancy of the white people by revolutionary methods and that they had been stuffing the ballot boxes, committing perjury, and carrying the elections by fraud and violence. Then in 1890, Mississippi rewrote its entire state constitution. The new constitution included poll taxes, literacy tests, and an understanding clause. All of them were designed to do one thing: prevent Black people from voting without explicitly saying so. The literacy tests were administered by white registrars who had full discretion over who passed and who failed. If you were Black, you failed. If you were white and couldn't read, they let you through with a grandfather clause that tied your voting rights to whether your grandfather could vote before 1867. Since Black people were enslaved before 1867, they were automatically excluded. The results were immediate. Black voter registration collapsed. By 1892, less than 6% of eligible Black men were registered to vote in a state where they were the majority of the population. Every other Southern state looked at what Mississippi did and copied it, and they called it the Mississippi Plan. And here's the part that connects everything. Mississippi has the largest Black population percentage of any state in the entire country. Nearly 40% of the state is Black, and yet there has never been a Black governor in the state of Mississippi. Not once in over 200 years. And it just goes beyond just the governor. Mississippi has not elected a single Black person to any statewide office since the 19th century. And that's over 130 years of zero Black statewide officials in the Blackest state in America. The Black political power that existed during Reconstruction, the senators, the representatives, the secretaries of state, the superintendent of education, all of it was systematically destroyed, and it never came back. The 1890 Constitution that was designed to strip Black people of their political power created structural barriers so effective that they are still producing results over 130 years later. So let's put the full picture together. Mississippi rejected the 13th Amendment in 1865 because they wanted to be paid for their slaves. They waited 130 years to vote on it again. When they finally did in 1995, they didn't even file the paperwork. A professor watching a movie in 2012 is the only reason it got corrected. In between, they rewrote their entire state constitution to strip Black citizens of the right to vote. They used violence, fraud, and illegal manipulation to destroy Black political power. And today, in 2026, in a state where 4 in 10 people are Black, there has never been a Black governor and not a single Black person who has held a statewide office in over 130 years. Now, you tell me if that's oversight. This is American history that most Americans have never been taught. And the reason it matters today is because the systems that were put in place to suppress Black political power in Mississippi didn't just disappear. Many of them evolved, and many of them still exist today in different forms. Listen, if this video opened your eyes, share it with someone who needs to see it, okay? And subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you in the next video.